Guys, something shocking just happened. China is dismantling the American empire without firing a single shot. And no, this is not a Cold War 2.0, it's something much smarter. China is not playing a new Cold War game. Back in the Cold War, the US crushed the Soviets by building a huge alliance, the NATO in Europe, oil wars in the Middle East, even partnering with China to isolate Moscow. And that forced the Soviet Union into an arms race that they couldn't win. But China today saw that playbook and stepped around it. No military blocks, no formal alliance, not even with Russia. And that's how China dodged the trap. Instead of turning this into a military showdown, China dragged the fight into the economy, where Americans cannot rally around the whole world. And countries, they don't want another Cold War, they want the trade and they want the growth. That's why the TPP failed. That's why even these traditional allies like Australia or Singapore are reluctant to decouple from China. If America keeps pushing countries to choose, it might end up with Soviet Union that are overextended, overcommitted, and eventually broke. Also, its free market backfired. While Washington preaches democracy versus dictatorship, China shows up with supply chains, infrastructure, and contracts. The US has overthrown Saddam Hussein, but China get the oil contracts. The US has backed the Aung San Suu Kyi in Myanmar, but China gained the influence there anyway. And once the Ukraine war ends, guess who will win the reconstruction deals? Even inside America, China is everywhere. Look at Apple. 80% of supply chains in China, and nearly a third is controlled by Chinese firms. If you try to cut that off, Apple will collapse. So the US turned to sanctions, banning Huawei, blacklisting Chinese tech firms, kicking them out of the Wall Street. But here's the truth. That only worked on Japan in the 80s. It only worked on Europe, but it's not working on China. Huawei has adapted, and Chinese companies have stayed Chinese and keep growing. Meanwhile, it's the American companies that become addicted to the offshore production, offshore talents, and offshore profits. The free market used to be America's weapon. Now it has become China's shield. More importantly, China has a strategy while America does not. During the Cold War, the US had a clear strategy, the long telegram, the containment, and with steady executions. Today, America is throwing punches everywhere, military drills, regime change, economic blacklists. On the other hand, China is laser focused. It's building the next scientific superpower, state-of-the-art labs, billions in research fundings, and massive expansion in the science and technology education. Clear rewards for the patent holders and researchers. Even the Nobel Prize winners are collaborating with the Chinese teams, while the United States is scaring away their best people with xenophobia, surveillance, and political dramas. The same country that used to attract the world's best talents is now driving them out. So China isn't winning the Nobel Prize yet, but it's winning the talents. And when the American scientific age falls, so will its military age, and the dollar, and its empire. So let's be clear, China isn't trying to replace America, but it's absolutely trying to outlast it. And right now, it's doing right just that.